Why me?
Why you not?
Well, plenty of people come to your lectures that aren't supposed to. Why pick on me?
Well, I noticed you.
Yeah, but why?
Well, most people, when they don't understand something, they frown. You smile. Time and relative dimension in space. TARDIS for short. You're safe in here. You're safe in here and you always will be.
Let's get them out here, everyone.
Sorry, this might take me a while. On these stills.
Now we have a microphone set up right here. We've got some people starting to line up. We can get a whole bunch more of you there in the line. I'm just going to get us off to the races, and we're going to turn it over to you for most of the time. To kick things off with, a lot of people out here, fans of Doctor Who, going back to childhood, like Peter. Pearl, I wonder what you were a super fan of when you were a kid. Was it cartoons? Was it movies? Was it...
What was I super fan of when I was a kid? I really liked Judy Garland. Yeah, I was very cool when I was a kid. I also really liked Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I should play to the crowd. That's obviously what they're gonna like. Yeah, no, I was a big Buffy fan. I had like the books and stuff.
Judy Garland's really cool.
I think Judy Garland's really cool. Yeah, she's great.
Have all the action figures.
all the Judys. Every single version of Mimi and St. Louis. I would buy that, to be fair, if anyone. That's not serious.
A lot of people out here, I'm sure, want to ask you about Doctor Who. I'm interested, Peter, in asking you about something that I know that you're a fan of. Classical painters. You've played Leonardo da Vinci. I wondered how far back your love of classical painting goes. Is this something that goes back to childhood for you? Is it something that came to you in university?
No, it's just that I could draw, that's all. So I just like to draw, and then you start to, people say, look at this drawing, and look at this picture, and I'm not particularly scholarly about it. There's just a lot of painters that I love, but that just comes out of, you know, you're allowed to do that. Everybody's allowed to love them. You make me sound very grand. You're talking about Buffy the Vampire and Judy Garland, and I'm talking about Leonardo da Vinci. And,
all right, fine. Well, let's talk about another fan favorite franchise that you're a part of, Paddington Bear.
Oh, yeah.
One of the highlights for me.
Paddington Bear.
Yeah, please look after that bear over there. I'm assuming that you were a fan of Paddington going into being a part of the first movie. To an extent.
Yes, I wrote to Paddington when I was very young, asking if there was any chance that I might be able to be in the Paddington series of films. Well, no,
Did you write back?
Paddington is kind of a national institution.
Yeah. I mean, we all sort of grew up with Paddington, so yeah, I knew. It's a great comfort, a great series. It used to be on TV, and so it was a delight to be in. In fact, that was the job I did just before I became Doctor Who. And it was great. I mean, those films, I think, are so sincere and so well-meaning. They're so beautifully made, and I think when you make a film like that, which costs millions of dollars and has to make millions of dollars back to make money, for that sincerity to survive at the heart of it is very rare. And so I put that down to the director, who did a brilliant job on it.
Now, I know that a lot of people will ask things like, what your favorite episode to work on was, your favorite set to work on, that sort of thing. I'm curious about props. Favorite props to play with on the set of Doctor Who. Does it come down to the sonic sunglasses for you, Peter? Is it the levers and dials and all of that inside the TARDIS? Was there anything that you got to play with on set? Because having a prop as an actor gives you a little bit of business to do, gives you something to occupy yourself with.
Well, I think we should pass this over to you. But before I do, I just want to say, a Doctor Who doesn't have very much money. I don't mean just him personally, but I mean the show. So the props fall to pieces. So you can't really play with them too much. And often, someone would come in with a ray gun and go like that, and then the ray gun would fall to pieces. So you spent most of your time trying to hold the props together. So it was very difficult to have a favourite, wasn't it? When they keep falling to pieces.
They weren't very comprehensive.
No, but we're two brilliant props guys, Liam and Matt, who were just fantastic, looked after us, and they had the miserable job of gluing the ray guns back together again when they broke.
I really enjoyed the vault, the door to the vault. With all of the things, you had to press all the 4 buttons and do the things, and then it was Matt who had to make sure it opened properly. It would sort of fall a bit like that, and it would go it was meant to be like metal, and it was made of wood and cardboard.
I used to love seeing the difference between what was written in the script and what was there on the set. Because if you Face the Raven, there's a control panel which in the script was designed as having the Doctor had a key which he had to insert into the key, and he turned it a quarter and it would click, and then he turned it another quarter and it would double click, and then he turned it 3/4 back and there would be a big hum and it would open up, and I got on it and I said, "Where is it?" And they pointed to a hole. And they said, "It's in there." And you just got to stick your hand in and enact all that.
I've just got one more little one for you, and then we've got quite the line. This is magnificent. You've followed instructions so well, all of you lovely folks. During your run as the Doctor, we got a very distinctly Buckaroo Banzai-like little kind of mise-en-scène at one point. I wonder, was that from Stephen being a big fan of Buckaroo Banzai? Was it maybe a little bit of something that you enjoy yourself?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, the guitar and the sunglasses, and no matter where you go, there you are. Was that something that Stephen even went over with you? You weren't even aware of it?
But what is Buckaroo Banzai?
Buckaroo Banzai, it's a Peter Weller film from 1984 that 7 of us here have seen.
Okay. I must look it up.
Little references like that, that Stephen would put into the scripts. Was it something that you'd be aware of, or was it like this, where obviously it was not discussed with you at all?
I'd generally be no idea. I would just show up, and I didn't. He's very, very clever, and that I just sort of said to them, I think it'd be fun if the Doctor played guitar. But I didn't really expect them to go with it. I said he should just play it like a teenager. He should be in his room, playing these terrible, loud power chords and plugging it into the TARDIS control console and making a guitar and all that. And then the next thing I read, it was this scene of him coming in on a tank. And of course I said, that doesn't work. I said, that's not any good. That's like a Cher video. Without Cher, which can only be disappointing. But yeah, no, I would imagine he probably did put those references in. We shall ask him next time we see him.
Was there anything in particular on set that you enjoyed, whether it was a reference, whether it was a particular time that you guys went back to Pearl?
I think my favourite set was probably the set for Thin Ice. The Westminster Bridge. I remember Michael showing me that and just being totally blown away, like before we'd sort of started filming on that, and just being like so overawed. I mean, it was about the height of the ceiling, wasn't it? It was genuinely massive, because I mean, some of the sets some of them are huge, and some of them are like just tiny portions of it, and then it's like the rest of it is a bit of CGI or something like that. But with this one, I was genuinely like, this is actually quite amazing. It's quite a humbling experience. I remember being like, literally felt quite dwarfed by all the show and sort of everything. Kind of, it sort of, I think that was for me kind of sort of the first moment it hit me, sort of how big it all was, literally and metaphorically.
And can I just say that Michael Pickwoad, who was our designer, who passed away about 2 weeks ago, was responsible for that set and for the incredible sets that we had on Doctor Who. It was one of the great delights of the shows. You know, we'd be working in one studio on a current episode, and we'd see in the next studio, Michael would be in and out, with his crew, working on something else, and you would walk in and suddenly find yourself, on a frozen River Thames, or in a Viking settlement, or on one of many spaceships. And if you're lucky, Michael would appear, and he'd be sort of, he'd give you a tour of the set. And he knew everything about everything. He was an extraordinary man, incredibly intelligent, incredibly gifted.
Phenomenally detail-oriented.
Phenomenally detail-oriented, and also full of great heart and vision. So it's a great loss. I should also say he designed one of the greatest British films ever made, which was With Nail and I.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he created,
Wow.
you may not know it, but
that's such a good film.
But it shows sort of where the culture of what the British actors come from, which is grubby apartments, that are rather dirty and tobacco stained, and Michael did all of that.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring anything down on Sunday morning, but I wanted to make sure that we talked about Michael, because people like him are the reason that you have the cardboard and aluminium foil put together show that looks as good as Doctor Who does.
Yeah, because he knows where to spend the money. He
Yeah,
knows,
exactly.
Spend it on Westminster Bridge.
Can I ask a favor of you? Can we get a round of applause for Michael Pickwoad? Now turn it over to you. We are in your hands. Guide us as you will. Go for it.
I love Jazz Doctor Who and Bill.
Thanks.
Watched all the shows, didn't like a couple of them, but
Which ones?
I didn't like the Moon one.
Moon one.
Honesty on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, I mean, well, why not? I mean, we're all here. Let's break it down.
Anyway,
What do you do?
what's that? I'm 13.
What do you do?
I'm a software engineer, professional geek, and as a hobby, I make trinkets for people, and I've made you a couple, both you two, and I'd like to be able to give them to you.
That would be lovely. Thank you so much. That's very sweet of you.
Was that the question? I guess the answer is yes.
I imagine so. Thank you. I'm down with that. I have one of those too.
You gotta catch them all.
My nephew, so exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow! Thank you so much.
whoa.
Oh wow!
Wow.
That's some serious hardware.
That's amazing.
It's fantastic. Oh, two.
There's two.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so
Wow.
kind of you.
Here we go.
That's brilliant.
Incredible.
Those.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Gosh, that's so kind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is just going to be a procession of gifts.
Yeah.
It's going very well for Peter so far. We're going to see is Pearl going to catch up.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's so kind of you.
This is
Look at
great.
this, you come to Tampa Bay and first thing off, you get a bunch of free stuff.
Right? That's fantastic.
I wish that's what coming to Tampa Bay were like for me every time.
What? Bless you. That's very sweet. Oh, thank you very much. It's very kind of you to
Yes, he
say.
is much too young to retire, yes?
Thank you so much for these.
Thank you. This is very kind of you.
I'll pop these down.
Thank you. Thank you. So this might take me about half an hour to get back on this door.
One more. Okay, all right. Oh, look, it's K9. Look
Wow,
at that.
that's great.
K9 and a TARDIS.
K9. That's very nice.
Thank you so much.
It's a pocket K9.
Go right ahead.
Hello.
Hello, look at you. You look amazing.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Zan, and my question is for both of you. What did you learn from each other?
Pearl obviously got a crash course in riding on a tank.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at that now, actually. Yeah. I mean, what didn't I learn? For me, Doctor Who was my first sort of TV role, really. So working with someone as amazingly talented as Peter was literally like a crash course in how to act for TV. I mean, I was like, okay, I was like, okay, yeah, I think I'm kind of getting this. And I'd like watch you when we would sort of, we'd obviously. So like when the camera's filming like my POV shot, I'd be like behind the camera, but it might be better for you to look like there, so I could just watch, which was very fun. And I'd watch you like doing it, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's great. And I'd watch it through the camera, I'd be like, how are you doing that? It was like just like a million times more detailed and amazing. So yeah, I just tried to emulate that quite a lot. But yeah, I mean, it was great. I think I learned very much.
Well, thank you. Well, so did I. I mean, Pearl brought herself to the show, which was somebody with a great gift for acting and a great energy and a great truthfulness. And so what that does is it's a whole different energy. So every new actor brings something new with them, and Pearl had a whole thing going on which was totally hers and was not what I expected, really, and that's fantastic because that keeps everything alive. Of course, you've got to be as good as Pearl is in order for that to work.
Thank you.
So I learned that she could do this character more brilliantly than anybody else, and that we could make something very special between us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, look at this one, smartly dressed.
Thank you. Okay, it's kind of a dumb question. I always ask the dumb questions.
Oh, trust me, it's no worse than any of mine.
Okay. So you like say don't be lasagna. So I was just wondering if you actually like lasagna.
I love lasagna, yeah. Someone asked me that in Austin, what was my favorite food, and I said lasagna. And my final meal, if they said, what would be your final meal? But mine would be lasagna.
Really? Mine would be loads of shellfish because I'm allergic to it. So I think I'm gonna get in at any point, do you know what I mean? I'm gonna die anyway. It's like lasagna's great though.
You get a laugh like that. Yeah, that was a great question.
Okay, I just have a really quick question. I know you were in Paddington and you were just in the Pooh movie. Which one do you like better, Paddington or Pooh?
Oh, that's a war right there. Winnie the Pooh or Paddington Bear? Make the man choose. How could you? How dare you?
No, I think they're both lovely bears. They're both wonderful characters. And great to work with both of them.
Diplomatic as regards bears.
That was a tag team match just there. Okay, you hold the phone, I'll ask the question. Now you hold the phone and I'll ask the question.
Okay, now you ask the question.
All right, I'll ask the question. So, I graduated from high school in 2019, and I was wondering if either of you would be in the position to provide a quote that I can use in the yearbook.
Oh, your senior superlative.
The senior quote, yeah. Are you guys familiar with this concept?
No.
So...
Yeah.
So high schoolers later, what's your name?
Spencer.
Spencer gets his photo in the yearbook, and they print a little quote underneath his name and photo in the yearbook, which can be anything, unless it's profane, I guess.
No, yeah.
Even if it's profane?
Oh, I don't.
You go to a very progressive high school. So he's asking, do you have a recommendation for a quote? Maybe a...
Where there's tears, there's hope.
Boom.
That's pretty strong for high school, isn't it? Maybe that's just my own personal experience.
I like it.
We don't need to talk about that, it's fine.
Spencer will fulfill his potential.
All right.
I know because I've seen the future.
Thank you. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much.
$50.
Hey, you didn't pay. Get back here. Get back here.
So, I'm a huge fan of Craig Ferguson, and
It's a great day for America, everybody.
yes. But it soon as you were announced as the Doctor, I was like, get Craig as the companion. Get Craig as the companion.
Thanks.
Yeah, screw Craig Ferguson. This one's the best.
Yeah, but
I mean, I don't know who Craig Ferguson is, but like maybe I should like look him up. Like, got a little bit of competition there.
he did the Late Late Show for a while, and he always had like Doctor Who segments, and it ended before you could have been on there, but that would have been awesome too, because he had all the companions and everything. My question was, since we didn't get to see him as a companion, I know you two were like in a band when you were younger. Did you have any like Doctor Who companion moments, like any fun stories, the two of you that you can remember?
So I think I'll throw the proviso of there are children in the room, yes. What was your time being in a rock band with Craig Ferguson like, Peter?
Well, Craig was just wonderful. He was just so funny. He was just, I mean, he was the drummer, but he was clearly going to be a comedian because he was just hilarious from day one. But he was like 17.
No, it's okay. This won't go online or anything. Nobody will hear any of these stories.
He lived in a town called Cumbernauld, which was not Glasgow, which is where we and the rest of the band lived. And Glasgow was seen as a more sophisticated part of the world. So, but Craig, I always remember, what really made me laugh was he came to Glasgow to live the rock and roll lifestyle, but he worked in the post office in Cumbernauld. So no matter how wild our nights got, he had to get back to the post office. So he used to keep in his inside pocket what he called his emergency pound. It was a pound note, which was to get the bus fare back to the post office. Which would be like at 4 o'clock in the morning or something. No, there were many stories, but that's the most child-friendly one.
Thank you. And Pearl, just on the same note, do you have any friends that were kind of like a Doctor Who adventure for you, like when you were growing up, or stories about that?
Many, but none that are appropriate to share.
Okay.
I mean, you went to theater school.
Oh, exactly. I went to university before that. Yeah, so it's 5 years of very hard work that I did there.
All right, thank you.
Next up. All right, Nine, what do you have for us?
So, my question is, throughout all the seasons of Doctor Who, which monster, creature, robot actually terrified you throughout the seasons that you actually wish you could have faced on Doctor Who?
So that they didn't face?
Yeah.
Okay, so classic Doctor Who, villain, monster, and so on that you didn't encounter in your run on the show that you wish that you had?
I would love to have done, with our modern technology, to have done the web planet, and to have done the Zarbi and the Minotaur and all that stuff, which they had absolutely no money. So when you see them now, it all looks a little bit tatty, but it's so imaginative. And I saw that as a kid, and I could, those shows that they made were not meant to be watched again and again. They just went out once. And they didn't think people were going to be sitting 50 years later going, oh, look at that, cardboard. Isn't that terrible? But it was a great triumph of the imagination, because as a kid, those creatures existed in my head and grew and were amazing. So I would have loved to have done a return to the web planet, but with new technology.
Oh, that would be cool. How about you, Miss?
I feel like the Weeping Angels. They're pretty terrifying. I'm quite glad we didn't face them. I think I'm quite blinky as a person. So I feel like that wouldn't have lasted very long against them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We go from 9 to 10. This is proceeding numerically. Very good.
So, how did it feel going from the role of the father in the Pompeii episode to the Doctor himself?
Amazing, but I didn't. They didn't happen one after the other. I did that and thought that was going to be my only involvement with Doctor Who, was doing that role, which was great. And I went down and did it, and David Tennant was absolutely amazing to me and great to be around, and showed me the TARDIS, and it was all down in Cardiff and all that. And I thought, oh, that's a great gig, and I love Doctor Who, and thanks very much. But then they asked me to be in Torchwood, which was another bit of the Doctor Who kind of world. That's quite nice to do that as well. And then when they asked me to be Doctor Who, it was just, it just made me laugh. You must be joking, really, basically, I thought. But they weren't, so it was great. Thank you.
God, everybody else is taller, goodness. Okay, so I want to know, Peter, what was your favorite speech to do? 'Cause I really liked your speech in the Zygon inversion.
Well, I think there are all lots of great speeches, and so I don't like to say I have a favourite anything. But the speech that keeps coming back is the speach from Listen.
Yeah,
about
I love that one.
fear being a superpower. Because I've met a lot of people who use that speech in circumstances that can often be quite tragic or difficult, or people who have been ill and have had to go through very difficult procedures, and they have used that speech to help them prepare. So it's delightful to be involved with something that has that part. But all of them, I mean, the Zygon speech was amazing. I mean, it was like pages and pages long, and when we did it, and it went on all day. But when I first did it, there was a round of applause, and you don't normally get a round of applause. I thought there must be somebody new here, and it was the American ambassador. It just so happened that the American ambassador was touring, because this was the previous American ambassador. He didn't spend all of his time in London. He spent his time traveling around the UK, trying to understand the UK, going to meet people, trying to see businesses, trying to see factories, trying to understand what people's lives what were like in the UK and how America's relationship with that would work. And on one of his travels, he came to Cardiff, and they invited him to the studio. And so it was great that he and his team saw that speech, and they applauded, which was nice.
On that same theme, every doctor gets one last speech going into Regeneration. What was preparing for that like for you? Was it the gravity of, you know, this is it, this is the last scene? Was that intimidating, overwhelming for you?
Yes, it's a bit intimidating, but then you just have to do it's a speech like any other speech and just try and learn it. They probably just try and learn the words properly and then see what happens with it. But as a speech, it had been, I think, bubbling for a while with Stephen, and was, I thought it was a beautiful speech. It was full of a lot of things that he and I were both very keen on, and one of the things was actually something that had happened at a situation like this, where someone in the audience at Q&A had asked me what the doctor's real name was, and I, sitting here, had said, you know, you wouldn't be able to pronounce it, but you might be able to hear it because it's not a word, it's a frequency which can only be understood, you know, if the stars are in the right place. You know? And so Stephen took that and improved it and put it into the speech.
Wonderful question. What's your name?
I'm Paige.
Paige?
Yeah.
Let's hear it for Paige, everybody.
Carl, I really loved you in the show, and I really love how you represent the LGBTQ community. So I just wanted to say that.
Cheers.
My name is Jackson, and I have a question and a knock-knock joke.
You know, the reason that I love this is usually I have a question. It's more of a comment than a question. This guy has a question and a knock-knock joke. Jackson, I'm already a huge fan of yours. Which do you want to do first, the knock-knock joke or the question?
The question.
Let's do it.
My question is, who is your favorite doctor before the 12th Doctor?
Oh, it's like picking a favorite child.
Well, I love them all. I think they're all brilliant. You know. And I think Jodie's going to be absolutely amazing. So I think that, you know, I'm in awe really of all of them. Particularly when you do this, having done this job, you know, and coming onto the set, and sometimes things are not quite as cosmic as you would expect them to be from the script. And I did the show at a time when we had some money, the other actors did it at a time when there was little money, and they would often have to work with things that were not great, but never for a moment did you ever see that in their eyes. Never for a moment did you ever not think that they were really on that planet, or really in the TARDIS, or really dealing with that monster. And I thought that's real acting, you know. So they're all great. Who's your favorite?
The 11th.
The qualifier of before the 12th. So, Peter, it's okay. It's gonna be all right. I'm sure someone in this crowd loves you, Peter. I love cheap applause. There's nothing better than cheap applause.
The 12th Doctor is my second favorite.
Thank you, Jackson. Okay,
this is gonna be the greatest knock-knock joke of all time.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Doctor.
Oh. Which I have to ask.
Which doctor? Doctor Who.
There we go. Thanks, Jackson.
You're welcome.
Hey, Alex.
Hello.
So my question is, if you could, for Pearl, it's the companion, and for Peter, it's the Doctor. If you could incorporate one part of a different one of you into your character, what part? Like, if you could pick, like, for Peter, what part or outfit of their personality would you put in your character, if you could have chosen that?
What, you mean what part of Bill's personality would...
No, like any of them, any of the Doctors. For you, any of the Doctors, what part of their personality or what
Okay,
would
like
you
what
pick?
kind of quality of any of the Doctors?
And then for you for the companion.
Me for the companions.
So much to choose from.
Good question. There is a lot to choose from, isn't there?
Yeah.
I'd like to have David Tennant's hair.
You're my favorite Doctor anyway, without the hair.
I feel like I'd quite like Ace's bomber jacket, to be fair.
And then what do you think about the female Doctor, being that it's a new female?
I think she's going to be amazing. I think she's going to be fantastic. I mean, Jodie's just...
Girl power!
Exactly, yes, girl power. Thank you.
Hello.
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 If you don't mind, here. Hey, a lot of questions. Long time Who fan, even since when I was a kid, my father watched it. One thing I noticed that's very different about your character is you broke the fourth wall. Many of your episodes seemed like you were speaking directly to the audience, not necessarily to any companion inside the TARDIS. How did that come about? Was that something you intentionally did? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I never deliberately. It was whenever if ever I looked at the camera and spoke, it was because it was in the script, and so it hadn't been my idea to do that. But I liked it. I think it's a really good idea, and I think the idea that the Doctor is communicating directly with the audience is good, because I think he is. I think people have a very strong relationship with that character and feel that he is talking to them. But as a stylistic thing, I think it's good. But you've got to use it sparingly. But also, it's just, you know, it's part of the mechanics of the show. Is that the Doctor's often on his own in the TARDIS, so he has to talk out loud. You know, mind you, I talk to myself all the time. So it was quite natural for me to do that. But no, I like, it's sort of sharing a joke as well. It's sometimes, you know, it's almost winking at the audience, which is fun, I think.
Well, thank you very much for a great ride for the years that you were the Doctor.
We've got about 10 minutes left. I think we can rapid fire through a bunch of you. Think we can do this, guys?
I have two questions. One, What's your favorite Doctor Who not Doctor Who, Doctor Who villain? For any reason, design, how they are, what they do.
And the second question?
Second question is, what was your favorite blooper behind the scenes moment?
Okay, favorite villain, favorite creature, that sort of thing.
Dalek Missy Master Davros. And there are no bloopers because I was always very disciplined.
Mine definitely isn't the Mondasian Cybermen. And favourite blooper moment, I think, was in episode 2 when one of our supporting artists fell asleep during a really, really long scene that we were filming inside this big room. And it's just, we were all sort of quiet. We just had this little... this guy had been lying on the floor for about 3 hours. And it's obviously very comfortable. But I mean, yeah, that was fun, sort of. Broke the day up a little bit.
I just want to welcome you to Florida. I'm sure you're enjoying this fall weather we're having. But my question is for you, Peter and Pearl. How does it feel to be part of such an iconic show that goes on through the generations? I mean, obviously, Peter, you were a Doctor Who fan many, many years ago when it started. I mean, I can vouch, you were the doctor for an important part of my life right when I started high school, and you regenerated right when I started college. And so, honestly, looking back at certain parts of my life, I can remember who the doctor was and how they grew as I grew. And I think that's just a really cool thing. And I wondered if you experienced that as well growing up with the show.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful. It's very exciting. It's a privilege, really. You don't realize when you do any job that it has this kind of response, it makes this kind of connection to people all across the world, all over the world. And if you think about that too much, it gets a little bit scary. So you mustn't think about the size of it. And I just feel very, very blessed to have had a go at it. And to get to meet guys like you in this situation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I don't think I really quite understood the magnitude of the show before joining it, which I think was kind of a blessing in disguise, because I think if I had known, it would have been quite daunting. That it means so much to so many people. But yeah, I mean, getting to come to places like this and meet you guys, as you say, all over the world is phenomenal. And I feel like even though we've left the show, it doesn't feel like it's ever left us, which I think is amazing. It's such a privilege.
It is amazing. Thank you guys for coming down here. And you're adorable, Pearl, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
My question's for Peter. Sorry, Pearl.
So go for it.
I read somewhere that the 6th Doctor, he wanted an all-black suit. And he ended up with a rainbow puking all over him. Did you get the suit that you wanted, or did you want a different outfit?
I pretty much did. I mean, I just always wanted to be, to me, my doctor was really about being wearing dark clothes and being sort of very stark and black and white. But because that's kind of how I remember, because we had black and white television, I guess, when Doctor started. And that's sort of what I wanted. So yes, I did get that, but there's an increasing sort of daily pressure to kind of put on some colourful, someone actually did say to me, wouldn't a scarf be a good idea? And I thought, well, that's what has been done before. So yeah, I think I did get what I wanted, but it was it's hard to hang on to because everybody keeps wanting to make a new action figure that's got more colourful things that you can stick onto it and all that. And I don't care about that.
All right, thank you.
Whoa!
Uh-oh.
It's a weeping angel. How amazing! You look amazing.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
My question is, who is Clara, really?
That's over to you, mate.
Stephen Moffat wasn't available. What do you think? What would you say that she meant to you as a scene partner, as a character?
Well, you have to go back to her original story and see that she saved the Doctor in all of his...
Yes, several times, but who is she to you?
What is she to me?
Yeah,
You mean me personally? Or the Doctor?
like to the Doctor.
She's the person that saved his life. He wouldn't exist if she had not taken the action she took. And so, in doing so, she transformed herself out of the corporeal existence to which we're all stuck into a cosmic dimension that has not yet been fully resolved.
Now, let's see, my friend. We met yesterday. You did exactly as I asked. You came to the Q&A. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to make this a little easier on you. Why don't you come up to the front for us? Here. Stick that on the mic stand. Come up here. Come up here.
Hey, how you doing?
Hello. What's your name, sir?
My name is Philip.
Philip.
Philip, what do you have for us?
Nice to meet you, Philip.
As the Doctor, if you get touched by a living angel, what dimension would you be teleported to? And how would you get back to the TARDIS?
So, which episode was?
So if you were touched by a weeping angel,
yeah,
and what dimension would you be teleported to, and how would you get back to the TARDIS?
Oh man, I'm exhausted after the last.
Oh gosh. What dimension would I don't know. What dimension would you be teleported to, and how would you get back to the TARDIS?
Yeah, I'm not the Doctor.
Not I don't know. I don't know. But
Is there a setting that you didn't go to in the series that you wish that you had? Maybe a particular time?
I'd quite like to go to Shakespeare's Globe and see a live play at that time when there's sort of, they were like 5 hours long and there were breaks in between and people walking around drinking like mead that was probably like really warm and disgusting and probably smelled quite horrible. Yeah, I think it was quite a gross time and everyone's really glamorized it. So I think I'd quite like to experience that and hopefully I'd get back to the TARDIS as quick as possible.
I think it'd be transported to a dimension of stone, which is one that no one has been in yet. And so the understanding of how you could exist inside that matter would be fascinating. And how you could live and breathe and move and be an organism while still being composed of those elements would be a fun thing to discover. So I think that's where you would be. But how you would get back to the TARDIS, you'd just use your sonic screwdriver.
Thank you, Philip. Let's hear it for Philip, everyone. Now, I've good news and bad news. Sadly, the bad news is that we've run out of time. But we haven't really run out of time because you're here the rest of the day, yes? Everyone can come up to the exhibit hall to see you. I have one little thing to wrap us up. You've done a bunch of these conventions at this point. You've run into so many fans who are so generous with their love and how much your work has meant to them. And I wonder if there are memories that stand out to you, whether just across the board, the kind of affection and love that you get from the fans, or just particular interactions that maybe have surprised you, taken you aback, in terms of how much the show means to people that come up to you with all manner of things to sign, all manner of things to say, all manner of wonderful free things that they bring us at the beginning of a panel, anything like that really stands out for you.
Yeah, for me, I think I was in Berlin a little while ago, and a young woman came up to me. I think she's about 18. She's Malaysian origin, but lived in Berlin for a couple of years. And she came up to me. She was quite emotional and she was quite nervous to talk to me initially. But once we sort of had a little chat and sort of calmed her down a bit, she told me that. Essentially, without me, she wouldn't have been able to come out to her family. So, yeah, I think I mean, that's happened a couple of times since, but it still makes me emotional, like thinking about it now. I think that's an amazing gift, and I didn't anticipate that would ever happen. So I think that's wonderful.
Similar. I don't think. Sometimes people share things with you, experiences that they've had that are quite profound, and so it would be inappropriate of me to detail those. But I certainly have met many people who have had more than their fair share of troubles, and somehow this little show, which started like over 50 years ago, touches them. Somehow this show has helped them. Somehow the show pulls them through. And that's just a great privilege to be associated with it. And also for them to share that with us. Because it's not me or Pearl or Chris or David or any of us individually who have made this special thing. It's the show. The show has a power to help people, and that's a great thing, particularly with the sorry state that the world is in at the moment.
Well, it's a really great thing that you make yourself available to fans. Here one more time.